It's official. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, suspends its 9-month-long strike conditionally. But just why did we have to wait this long? And what are the details of the negotiations? We'll bring you an insight tonight. And as the nation continues to seek workable solutions to the lingering security questions, tonight we seek another perspective to the government's handling, the people's expectation, and the possible options we may have missed. Hello and welcome to Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Kayode Kikulu from Lagos. Well, ASU has finally suspended its strike exactly 274 days after it embarked on one of its longest industrial actions on record. Call it an early Christmas present. And you may not be entirely wrong, but when you think about it deeply, you begin to wonder, is this really a present or a mere entitlement, a fundamental right to education as defined in UNESCO's convention, which talks about discrimination in education and other conventions which Nigeria is a signatory to. And of course, you have the provisions on the right to education in Chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which has been given effect and made justiciable by other domestic laws such as the Universal Basic Education Act and others. So clearly, Nigerian students have a right to quality education, and for 9 months they were denied this right. But ASU says it embarked on this industrial action because the government failed to honor agreements some date as far back as 2009. And for the union, the outstanding issues are: 1, the release of Revitalization Fund in line with the Memorandum of Understanding as the MOU of 2013. That's the first outstanding issue. The second is a payment of arrears of earned academic allowances. The third, inauguration of visitation panels to all federal universities, as well as conclusion of renegotiation of the 2009 FG and ASU agreement, and not forgetting, of course, the proliferation of state universities and governance issues in them. So, of course, these were the outstanding issues for ASU. And let's just walk you through that again. First was a release of Revitalization Fund in line with the MOU of 2013, which, of course, detailed some of the issues that should be sorted. Then, of course, the payment of the arrears of earned academic allowances, inauguration of visitation panels to all federal universities, as well as conclusion of renegotiation of the 2009 agreement between the federal government and ASU, as well as proliferation of state universities and governance issues in them. So this, of course, led to marathon negotiations between ASU and the Ministries of Labor and Education representing the government. We'll help you understand the inner workings of those negotiations, the compromises that were made, and whether or not trust has been established between both parties. That will be soon enough. But first, take a listen to this.
After diligent and careful appraisal on various reports, especially the agreements reached by ASU with the federal government of Nigeria on the 22nd December 2020, NEC resolved as follows: A, to accept the agreements reached between ASU and the federal government on the 22nd December 2020. B, to consciously and diligently monitor the implementation of the FG and ASU agreements of 22nd December 2020 in all our branches. C, to ensure that no ASU member suffers any loss of the served benefits as a result of participation in the strike. D, to pursue fervently the areas in the FG and ASU agreement of 2009 and the MOA 2013 that require legislation such as the mainstreaming of EAA into the annual budget and the amendment of the executive bill in respect of the National Universities Commission Act 2004. NEC resolved that the current strike action by the union should be suspended conditionally with effect from 12 a.m. Thursday, 24th December 2020. However, should government fail to bid its own part, to fulfill its own part of the agreement, ASUU will resume the suspended strike without any notice.
So, if you listened to the president of ASUU, clearly you will deduce that this may be far from over. On one hand, it is a suspension, and on the other, it's not without conditions that government must meet. So let's bring you a behind the scenes of what exactly played out during the negotiations. We have joining us on the program tonight Dr. Chris Ngige, the Minister for Labour and Employment, just to give us an understanding of what happened and what to expect. Good evening, and thank you for joining us on the program. Now, for the benefit of a lot of Nigerians and perhaps non-Nigerians who have been following this, great to have you. Some of them may have lost trail of this whole process because, quite honestly, it had its twists and turns. There were times we expected it would be called off or suspended, and you hear it continues. So help us understand, how did we get to this point?
Thank you. Well, we got to this point because it's a labor negotiation between an employer and employee. The federal government, through the Ministry of Education and the National Universities Commission, is the employer of the lecturers in the university system. And by the amendment of University Act for Governing Council, the governing councils were also set to now represent the federal government as their direct employers. But when these issues of money payments, revitalization of university system, that's pumping more money to make our universities come up to world standard, and issues of promotion and appointment of vice chancellors, appointment of visitation panels to look at the university system on behalf of the visitor, who is also the president, commander-in-chief. You will now see that it comes down again to Minister of Education, and if money is involved, Minister of Finance. And when they negotiate, or when they discuss, or social dialogue, as we call it in industrial relations parlance, and there's a breakdown, and there's a failure, the ultimate thing is that they move to the next stage of their negotiation, which is to the Ministry of Labour and Employment, where we will now act as conciliators. They can come on their own. But if they don't come on their own, and one party, especially the worker or the employee, goes on strike, we do what is called apprehension and bring all of them to the negotiating table. So we have done so in March, precisely 9th of March, they went on what they call warning strike to say that they will not go onto the payment system devised by their employer, which is the federal government through the Ministry of Finance, Accountant General's office, for the integrated payment platform, which is called IPIS. They say they want to go there, that they feel that the system has so many shortcomings and that the system doesn't make for the university autonomy, that they are supposed to be used for civil servants or public servants only, and that they should be excluded. That proves a problem for the employers. And the employers said, no, we want to pay you through this system. We want to curb corruption. We want to curb all the areas of leakages. We want to make sure that people who are paying are people who are on the job in the university system. Compounded more by the fact that some other workers in the university system who are under the various unions of non-academic staff, SANU, Senior Staff Association, and the rest of them conformed. So the president of the country, who is the chief executive of the country, and who is their visitor, and who is their ultimate employer, in a national broadcast or national proclamation at National Assembly during the budget session, said everybody that draws money from the coffers of government, treasury-funded institutions must go on IPs.
Okay,
so by
Dr. Ngige.
On IPs before the close of December 2019.
Right. Well,
the lecturers, some of them came on IPs, some refused to come. The non-academic staff came, the Senior Staff Association came, National Association of Technologies, they came, and were captured on IPs. That was the beginning of the trouble.
Okay, we'll get into some of these issues, but just to understand the nitty-gritties of this, because this is a 9-month-long process. So in that period, a lot of Nigerian students were disenfranchised.
Because this was what triggered off their strike.
Right. So,
and when
understanding this background,
other issues were brought in.
Right. So we'll look at those issues, but
demands.
Just help Nigerians understand. Why did it take 9 months? Couldn't it have taken some days, max, because of the importance of education?
Well, it didn't take days, because some of the issues thrown up by the negotiation were issues that you cannot just handle immediately. Some of them predates this government. 2013 Memorandum of Understanding with the previous government, a lot of the things that the government signed in for them there were not implementable at this particular time. For example, there's a revitalization leg of the problem which says that from 2013, government will be paying 220 billion every year for revitalization of the university system. 1.3 trillion, so to say, will be paid. And in 2014, they dropped 200 billion and never paid anything again till we came. When we came, we looked at that agreement when they first went on strike in 2016. We said this is not implementable. But to show you good faith that we're not abandoning revitalization, we are going to pay 25 billion to you and then put up a committee to give us alternative sources of funding, because we believe in the university system, we believe in the revitalization. Moreover, there is some funding coming from TET Fund already in existence. Therefore, we need to reinforce that funding from the TET Fund. And that's what happened in 2016. And government paid in, I think, 25 billion then. And then a committee was set up. And that committee started work. And that committee brought out areas where they think government can use in funding: stamp duty, telecommunication, telephone charges, and the rest of them all. Some of the things there were not workable. Stamp duty, the money they say was in trillions that in the CBN, we found out that it was not even up to 100 billion that was there. And NIPOST and Office of the FIRS, they were battling on who should collect the stamp duty. That of telephone, no-go area. So these are the things. So that revitalization was not realizable, it was not implementable. And we said so from day one. But that we will commit to it by putting in money instrumentally. We don't have the 220 billion to pay. Because even when we came in, the economy took a downward nosedive. Petroleum product prices, no way. Crude oil, no way. Not fashionable anymore. So, even production volume dropped from 2.3 billion to about 1.8. From 1.8 to at a point 750 million per day in 2016. So there was no way we could implement that. And they knew there was no way. And we were trying to find a way to make sure that the revitalization spirit or that philosophy was not abandoned. There was the issue also of end academic allowances. End academic allowances are allowances you pay for somebody who has done an extra workload apart from his normal. It's computed. And after computation, it's monetized. So, again, we started looking at it and we said we couldn't continue this way. Let us get more lecturers to be in that system so that nobody is overworked. We put up another committee on that. So it was not that it wasn't going to take, or government wanted it to take a long time. No, the issue is that the resources were not there to do what somebody signed for you in 2013, an agreement which we told you was not implementable. We don't know why they did that. Again, 2009, that one is off because that was what was even reviewed in 2013. And the Balaki committee was set up to look at it. So all these things, we gathered them and started moving with them through Ministry of Education and even into my ministry because I had to do extra work to get involved so that when the discussions come on, I am not alien to the discussions or the issues there. So that was exactly what happened. So in the course of our doing this, the question of IPs came. And it was the IPs that triggered the immediate strike they went on. And during the strike, I apprehended they came. We started taking the issues one after the other. Yes, you don't want to be on IPs, but there's a pronouncement by the chief executive of the country. Yes, you don't want to be on IPs. Other people have gone on to IPs, everybody else. So what do? They say they now have a system which they call University Transparency Accountability Solution. And UTAS, we said, okay, we can look at your UTAS. If it is good, we merge them. Or we find a way to harmonize it with IPs because it's a local content thing. And the government believes in local content. The Presidential Executive Order 5.3 for local content. So it suits. What do we now do in the interim period? That was where we were, and we proposed to them that we will do something in the transition period. Let us find a way to accommodate you while we're testing your UTAS. How long will it take you to develop your UTAS? They say 18 months. So we say, fine. But this 18 months is a transition period. Something has to happen. Let us see a way to merge it. And they said no. So that is why we had this intractable problem, because at the time we said that, they now went on full strike on the 23rd of March. As we were trying to resolve it, the COVID-19 pandemic came, and it was to attend to Israel, because nobody knew who would be alive and who would not be alive. Thereafter, when we saw that we were alive, we made a case and paid them. The salaries that were not paid or that were stopped much earlier in February, we got a special dispensation from Mr. President to pay them. So we paid them for March, April, May, and June. And by that June, we now called them up to come for further conciliation. They said it wasn't possible, that there was a lockdown. We said, okay, let us do virtual. They said they didn't like a virtual. So we had to leave them.
Okay, Honorable Minister, we're due for a break now.
Until September.
Okay, we're due for a break now, but I mean, you have chronicled the issues from June all the way, in fact, 2009
Yes.
to June, now September. A couple of issues to touch on, but
That's
we need to go on this break. And when we return, we'll continue our conversation with the Honorable Minister for Labor and Employment. So please stay with us. There is so much surrounding that announcement by ASUU that it has suspended its 9-month-long industrial action with a condition. And tonight we are discussing with the Minister for Labor, Senator Chris Ngige, who joins us from our Abuja studio. You have chronicled some of these issues. So let me see if I can take them one after the other. First, IPIS versus UTAS. What is the way forward? What is the agreement? Will
Correct.
ASUU be going with IPIS or UTAS now? Which one is it?
Kayode, the agreement we now have is that UTAS have been subjected to integrity tests by the information technology experts. The government agency, National Information Technology Development Agency, that is responsible for all government technological information system, is already looking at their software. It's been tested. The the technologists from ASUU are working with them now. And as I speak to you, they have done stage 1, stage 2 of the test. And we have left that with ASUU to follow up. And if they have any problem, they should let us know. The last meeting, the stage where they are is that NIDA is supposed to go and inspect the place where they want to put the hardware. And then also do some, I think, consumer tests or whatever they call it. I'm not a computer guru, but they are making progress. When they make progress and the system is good and the hardware is procured, there's no reason why the Nigerian government will not like to use it. There's no reason why we will not match it or even let it have a full handshake with IP system. And in any case, there is no way you will not have a handshake with IPs once the money is government money. For example, right now, what we are using in paying them is a hybrid system between IPs and Nigerian Identity Management Commission. That's the NMIC, the people doing identity system for everybody. So, is there you capture the names and know that they are Nigerian names? Is also there that you get all the details and check the biodata, and then the fingerprints and everything are already there with them in NMIC. So this is what we are using now to pay. It's a hybrid. So at the end of the day again, when UTAS is accepted or has passed all the integrity test and security test, it will also have another handshake. That is the system. So
in other words,
that one is sorted out. And
in
I'm
other
happy
words,
with it. I'm
you're
also happy
saying that-
with it.
Right.
Because we are going to save foreign exchange and everything that is associated with it.
In other words, are you saying that UTAS cannot stand alone, even if it passes that integrity test? It has to work hand in hand with IPIS. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know what you mean by hand in hand.
Because you
I
talk
have
about a
said
handshake. You use that term,
When you
handshake.
shake hand with somebody,
Yeah, that's hand in hand.
he will know what you're doing because money is involved.
So clearly, UTAS cannot stand alone, right?
I have not said so. I'm not a computer expert. I've told you the little I know about computerization, especially when money issues are involved. Money issues are very sensitive issues. In the former system that we were using, called the GIFMIS platform, monies are taken and sent direct to the universities, and they disburse it in the bursar's office there, and then pay the lecturers and pay all the workers that are there. The ICPC report had shown that hundreds of billions have been lost through that system. Because number one, some people are ghost workers. Number two, some underhand payments are done. Number three, taxes are not deducted in some places. Number four, allowances that are not enabled by some people are taken away. Number five, people who are on sabbatical or people who are teaching in 4 universities can earn money in about 4 federal universities. But with the IPs, you only entitled to 1, and then 70% if you're doing adjunct in another place. If you're on sabbatical, you are entitled to 2. The IP system will be set in such a way that once the period of sabbatical is over, it closes up in the second university. All these are things that UTAS have been shown, or at the display they made for us, that UTAS can also do them. So it is there for the computer experts to know how to synchronize them when they eventually finish their tests.
Right. Yet again, you use the term synchronize. But another demand which they made is regarding revitalization. You've talked about that, but just for Nigerians to know what was agreed upon. I know ASU originally demanded 110 billion naira based on agreements. Initially, the federal government offered 20 billion naira, and then it was upped. And yet again, they went back into the negotiation. So what is the final agreement regarding that?
Final agreement, you are very, very correct. You said we offered 20 billion. That's the government side, because, you know, in this business, I'm the conciliator. I'm in the middle. The only thing is that when the government side proposes something that is very realistic, I will advise us to, they're not telling you lies. This is what it is. If government proposes something I know they can do better, I can tell them, no, you can do better. So this is my role. My role is not to witch hunt ASU or to even shortchange the government. No. My role is to see that this industrial, the milieu, the friendly milieu is created for them to discuss, and then I chip in my own advice for the betterment of the reconciliation or conciliation. We call it social dialogue by ILO standards. So 30 billion is what government finally came up with. And they were stretched. And the stretching was done by me. It was done by me. Because I know, as a member of the Economic Management team, the financial status of government. So the Minister of Finance cannot jive me or tell me what is not correct. So when ASU came, they said they needed the 220 billion. I told them, you can't get it. The money is not there to give you. The Minister of Finance has just left this meeting, but if she was still to be in this meeting, she will start laughing. Nobody can give you 220 billion. They now said, okay, that 220 billion is supposed to be one tranche, that they want 50% of it, 110 billion. Again, I told them you can't get 110 billion. I told them that the entire COVID budget of the federal government of Nigeria is 500 billion. To take care of the medical aspect of COVID, to take care of roads, to take care of water and sanitation, to take care of jobs that are to be created, to take care of even the social investment program, all 500 billion. So how can we give you 110 billion revitalization? Then again, side by side with it, going pari passu with it, is the issue of end academic allowances for you and for other workers in the university system who are in the other unions. Again, the federal government said, we give you 20 here and give you 30 here, 50 billion. They refused, but at the end of the day, what we agreed on now is that 40 billion will go to the university system for all the workers, ASU members inclusive, the preponderant persons there, 40 billion for all of you. 30 billion again now for revitalization. Again, to show our faith, to show our belief that this revitalization is not, we're not paying lip service to it. We will continue with the recommendation of our committee. We will continue with the special recommendation you sent to President on this, which the President have approved for the Ministry of Education. So you hold this again while we go on. As you are holding it, TET Fund will also be doing some revitalization for you. I think last year alone, TET Fund did a revitalization of about 180 billion or so in the university, in the educational system. So these are the things that are there. So for now, our agreement is this: 40 billion will be released before the end of December. In fact, we were waiting for the accounts and the details from the university system, and then NUC have just supplied that yesterday. So they will get the 40 billion before 31st December. The 30 billion for revitalization, they will get in January. The money is not there. That's the truth of the matter.
Well, let me
economy
ask.
is not too wonderful. Otherwise, we wouldn't have entered recession, even though it's a mild one. But the issue is that it's a recession, and we are going there. And we are fighting to come out from recession.
Honorable Minister, first, there are two questions, but the precursor is, how much of a priority is education, tertiary, at all levels? How much of a priority is education to this government?
Education is power. Knowledge. If I'm not educated or I didn't go to school, I won't be a medical doctor and I won't be here with you. I won't even have practiced my politics well. I won't be able to maybe read and write. So this government places education as high priority. There's high premium on education. Even the budget we are doing now, you can see where education is. Education is about number 3 or number 4 on the list. And I can also tell you that there are so many interventions in education, including the World Bank loans that we are getting. Some are in education and health. These are priorities. There are social entities, but education and health, no nation can play with it. If you play with both, then there is no country. You will have no persons even to populate a country for you. So education is high here. But again, you must go to a weighted scale. You put everything on the weighted scale. If you are sick and you die, will you have education? The answer is no.
Right.
If you're educated, if you have been educated, and then you don't live to let the country use your education, you die because of careless health system,
right,
or moribund health system.
The reason I ask,
not use again.
The reason I ask
you
is,
cannot joke with either. The same goes with defense. Security issues. Everybody is now shouting, oh, there's no security in this country. Our lives is nothing. We must put something in defense again. So it becomes a question of choice, priorities. You prioritize the needs as the circumstances prevailing at the time. But education and health will always be in the top rung of the ladder.
Well, the reason I ask is in 2012, the former government conducted that needs assessment, and you've referenced that a total of 1.3 trillion naira was said to be needed to revitalize that education sector, to bring it to the standard at least that we look forward to. I mean, a lot of Nigerian students have to go abroad to get education, but if we invest well in our education system, then we'll need to have that kind of education tourism. So that agreement was made, and it was said that within 6 years, the monies will be paid in different tranches. You referenced that the former government paid 200 billion. This government tried to pay just over 20 billion, basically not meeting those requirements. So in the light of this government failing, a lot of Nigerians are wondering, does it still pay as much priority to education? Can't we find ways to get these monies and ensure that we give our children the very best?
if you say this government failed to do A or B, that will not be fair. Two reasons. Number one, if I were part of that government at the time, who know that this is not doable. But you don't also blame them. At the time, they said that oil was selling at $120 a barrel, $130 a barrel. When it was not good, $100 a barrel. Production was 2.2 to 2.5 million barrels a day. We were even overshooting our quota. But as soon as this government came in 2015, Kaide, me and you were here. The price of oil pummeled, nosedived, to at a point $27 a barrel. Even during COVID, it went down to even $15 a barrel. Nigerian cargo was not being lifted anymore. In 2016, production went down to 800,000 barrels a day, down from 2 point something, because of militancy in the Niger Delta, because of burst pipelines and the rest of them all that occurred at the period. I mean, how do we get the money to pay for what people who were earning $120 a barrel, 2.5 million barrels a day, projected and said, okay, we accept? We can't do so. So what we needed to do was to put on our thinking cap. And we put on our thinking cap and said, this is a committee. Get us the best way to fund this thing. We believe in it.
Right.
And until you do it for us, we will start to manage and to show our solidarity with that particular philosophy.
Because you know that ASU thinks...
We need it.
Yes, you know that ASU thinks quite differently.
So to say that we didn't pay or we didn't do is not fair, because the resources to pay is not there.
Right. ASU thinks differently.
Besides,
to an extent.
Our payments through the telephone. And by the way,
right,
the government that drew up that agreement, the 200 billion they paid was even from that fund that they took it.
Well, Honorable Minister, we're winding down on this, but I mean, it's good you have given us some insight into what played out, and the question now is what to expect. ASU is saying that the condition ASU has given, basically saying that if the government fails to meet its end of the bargain, then they're going on strike, in fact, without notice. So do you agree to that, and are you prepared for that?
We will not come to that. We will not get there. We will not get there because I have so structured the agreement in such a way that it's a win-win situation for everybody. For example, the revitalization, we have given government up to 31st of January to pay that. We have also opened a window that by end of February, we will sit down again and review all this situation. End of February, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 9 weeks from now. So nobody is going to keep anybody in suspense. Nobody will do so. We will not do so. I will not give ASU the opportunity to go on strike. I will not. Because I have 3 biological children that suffered from this particular imbroglio we found ourselves in. 3 biological children. I have about 15 people on my scholarship in Nigerian universities. My 3 biological children are here in Nigerian universities. They even went to secondary school here. 2 of them are American citizens. I have the option of leaving them to go to America and enjoy free education or whatever, but I didn't. So I'm committed. I'm a parent. I'm a committed parent. I'm involved, even more than some ASU members, because some of them have their children in private schools. So I will not give them the opportunity, because I'll make sure the government does its own bit. I have structured the agreement in such a way that is doable.
And I trust that a lot of Nigerians will be holding on.
They also know that we have labor laws. If the worst comes to the worst, they will give time. They will give notice. There's nothing
Well,
like...
I do know that a lot of Nigerians will be holding on to your
words.
words that you will not allow this happen again. But we'd like to thank you so much, Honorable Minister for Employment, Senator Chris
I will not
Ngige.
allow it to happen.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us, and we wish you the very best.
Thank you very much, Skade. Thank you.
We'll be expecting to hear from ASU any moment, but we'll turn our attention to security when we return from this break. Big questions, really. What are we not looking at? What else do we need to do? That will form a major part of our conversation in a moment, so please stay with us. But just how would we discuss security without politics? I mean, politics, not the usual definition you hear out there, but politics is essentially a process of making policies for the economy, in this case for the security. And if you've looked at the situation in the country, you understand that we need improved policies, as it were. For some, they say it's implementation of the current policies we have. But whatever the case is, politics plays a major part in that process. You just listened to the governor of Zamfara State issuing some sort of disclaimer over reports and insinuations that he's sponsoring banditry in that region. He has spoken directly at the APC. And tonight on the program, we have joining us at least two members of the political parties in Nigeria. That's the major political party and the opposition. And joining us from Abuja is Mr. Ibrahim Modibo, an APC member, and right next to him, Mr. Austin Okai, a PDP member. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the program. Well, Mr. Okai, you may have listened to the governor of Zamfara State responding to those allegations, saying that he may be sponsoring banditry in that region. But like I said earlier on, the political will to ensure that we end insecurity, or at least get a handle of it, is quite important in this whole process. So looking at the political will, first for the ruling party, by extension the government, how do you rate this government?
Yeah, it is very, very unfortunate that such a statement coming from the ruling party after the interventions of the Governor Matawale of Zamfara State. The issue of security should, at this time, we're supposed to see it goes beyond a party affair, about Nigeria first. The safety of Nigerians, the safety of a country, and how the government should be able to protect lives and property. But it's unfortunate, instead of us to preach synergy, we allow politics to take over the better side or the other side of an individual. So and I think going about playing politics with the security of life and property is condemnable, and the government is not doing anything about it. By now, we're supposed to have seen the APC government under the leadership of President Muhammad Buhari to have shown out the like of the National Public Secretary of a party who come up with those kind of allegations. It is discouraging. We must encourage the governor, the PDP governor, or any other party that, as far as is concerned. It is about Nigeria and the sovereignty. Today, we are facing a lot of challenges of insecurity, where people go home with their one eyes open. And here we have a man who is using his own policy that is yielding a result in Zamfara, in helping the Katsina State government. And instead of learning from what he has done, how he was able to come up with this achievement, we are here playing politics with this. This has nothing to do with politics. It is about insincerity. I mean, this what the APC has said has demonstrated the insincerity on the side of the government. And I must commend the leadership of the governors of Zamfara State, who stood by his colleagues of Katsina State, Bello Masari, to ensure the safety and the rescue of the children that were abducted as a result of insecurity in Katsina State. I must commend the governor of Zamfara, and we must condemn it with all authority, including the member of APC, which I'm sure my colleagues here or my friend here will do the same. It is about Nigeria. It is about the safety of the citizens. It's about the safe return of the students that were abducted. This is not about PDP trying to take advantage or trying to take glory of it. And this is not about the APC trying to or whatever. But at the same time, I'm calling on the Department of State Security. At the same time, if they can invite the National Public Secretary of APC for questioning, maybe there are some things he knows which you and I may not have the privileged information.
All right, let's bring in Mr. Modibo. Well, this is what the governor says. He says, I find it insulting that the APC is accusing me of sponsoring bandits in my own state. We are all living witnesses to the fact that during APC's tenure, Zamfara State was adjudged as a colony of banditry in the whole world. And you've listened to Mr. Okai. How do you respond?
Well, thank you very much. I want to associate myself with Mr. Okai in trying to see that we bring a kind of balance in terms of thinking, in terms of level of awareness, and then creating a kind of synergy between the political parties for the general development of security and peaceful coexistence in Nigeria. I think security should not be toyed with. We should not look at it from the viewpoint of political parties. I hope and pray that the political, the public secretary of the APC, my own party, who is the ruling party, has not been misquoted. I just hope that he's not misquoted once again, because I want to believe that what has happened in Katsina was the greatest travesty of justice. It was one of the major security pitfalls that the governor of Zamfara, from the records I've been able to get, was the one that was able to, move in and trying to save the federal government or the government of Nigeria from embarrassment. I think he should be commended for his intervention, very patriotic, very sincere, and I think we should not look at the issue, or we should not narrow the thing to the prism of politics. Having stated this, I believe, as a former National Director of Publicity of ANPP, the longest serving, about 10 years, I think I stand a very good chance to talk on the need for us to have synergies. If there's no security, there will be no Nigeria. Yeah. And if there's no Nigeria, there will be no political parties or no politics to play. The essence of this government coming into power in 2015 has been born out of patriotic desire to positively respond to our generational challenges. And these generational challenges have to do with security, the issue of economic revampment, the issue of fighting corruption, and also the issue of looking at the position of changing the face and character of governance of this country. And I think the government so far has been able to do a lot in terms of looking at the security architecture, although it has been overwhelmed for a very long time by the challenges, which to me, it did not start with the APC government. It started right from the dawn of history, right from the time of the PDP when it was in government, but under President Olusegun Obasanjo, and it has traversed all the PDP governors up to this point in time. So it is not something that has just started now. But I think the height of insecurity has been able to come under this government, under this purview, because there are a lot of problems associated with the economy or the global trend of COVID-19. We also have seen how the economy has now been brought to its own knees under the this issue of recession.
Well,
so
Mr.
if we look
Modibo,
at these issues from all the parameters of democratic government,
right. Pardon me, I'd like to get
democracy.
Yeah, pardon me for butting in here. I just want to, because you talked about collaboration, and as I get your closing thoughts for both gentlemen, I just want to know, particularly if you talk about collaboration, at what level is the APC looking to collaborate with the PDP in solving this insecurity challenge? If you could please do that in 30 seconds so I can take Mr. Okai's closing statements also.
Thank you very much. You know, the APC as a party in governance believes, right from the time when Mr. President came, he came with a view to looking at issues holistically. And in terms of security architecture, there shouldn't be a PDP or an APC or ABGA or any of this thing when it comes to security architecture. There's a need for us to have a synergy. I believe that in the spirit of togetherness, in the spirit of looking at democratic structure based on international collaboration, national and international collaboration in terms of security, there's a need for us to work in synergy and in harmony so that we see how we could bring Nigeria to a very secure, a secure country where democracy will be propelled and also where we believe.
Mr. Modibo, let's take Mr. Okai's closing statement because of our time, pardon me. So, Mr. Okai, your closing thoughts as we wind down in 30 seconds, please.
Yeah, just as I said earlier, we should not politicize the whole thing. And PDP as a party, through its representative in both the House of Representatives and the National and the Senate, has proffered several solutions which the President is here to implement, including rejigging the security architecture, which include changing of the service chiefs and others. We have made that recommendation to the president. We expect him to act in line with what was recommended, not because it's coming from the PDP, because it's coming from a concerned Nigerians, because
Right.
it affects all aspects. And the issue of blaming game, we have to end it. Either security was inherited from the era of PDP or from the era of this, that is not the solution.
Well,
The
Mr. Okai,
APC came into power to solve the problem that which they think PDP could not.
I think that will be a
keep
great
on blaming
place.
the PDP, we inherited this. That is not the essence of.
Well,
That's
Mr.
not the
Okai,
essence of you coming to power.
Right.
At the same time,
I think that's a great place to anchor
started
at
from
this
Borno
time.
State, it's an APC state, which is.
gentlemen, we're out of time, but I'd like to thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Mr. Austin Okai, a member of the PDP, as well as Mr. Ibrahim Modibo, an APC member. It's good to see you smiling at least. You're on the same page regarding that. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
It's my word. It's that my okay.
Well, on that happy note, we wish it will translate into the security situation. We end today's program. I'm Kayode Kikelu. Thank you for watching.